Good afternoon. 2016, there are two winners in big data. Guess who they are? Anyone want to guess? Trump. Who else? Pokemon. All right. Pokemon Go behind is actually a big data company. Google can only collect those photos of the streets of our cities. But Pokemon Go, your kids are actually snapping photos of your home, in your offices, inside the restaurants and places that you can never go. So, it's a huge bunch of data coming in. Trump, there's a new order of search. If you go on Google or Facebook, you type on the search bar, you type Hillary Clinton. You will never be able to get any negative news. You type Trump, you get all kinds of negative news. But if you go to Weibo in China, you type Trump, you get great news about what's going on in the provinces, in the cities, of his speeches, of his campaigns. So this is what is happening in the world. And anyways, I want to start off with this chart. I was in MIT 2013 and at the Big Data Summit. And they show us this satellite chart. And I was like, oh, what is it going on? And they are actually using a satellite to monitor the car park spaces, which is occupied or vacant. And then, through a period of time, they look into the parking space of McDonald's and compare it with Burger King. And each of the car, they would place an assumption of a price tag. $3.99 per car, for example. And they'll eventually know how much the competitor would be doing based on the traffic. And on the highway, they would put on the billboards and see whether they could drive traffic into the parking lots. And for a period of time, they would know whether the billboards would improve the sales. This is already happening, and it has happened for the past few years. All right? So daytime, nighttime, the different billboards driving traffic into the locations. So this chart is actually the most important chart of 2016 that I would like to show you all. Dr. Tao has mentioned about the exponential growth of unicorns. If you look at the exponential growth curve, which they are actually us, we as users, if we have been using Facebook, Instagram, maybe for the kids, Snapchat, using Uber, Airbnb. These are all the companies that are driving exponential growth. However, most of the SME and Fortune 500 companies, we are growing at a rate of maybe 10, 20%, or maybe less than 10. So in between, there's a gap. We call it the digital innovation zone gap. And this is what we're trying to accomplish as well, to help the corporations to reach out to exponential growth customers. And this slide, Dr. Tao already showed, the world's largest taxi company owns no taxis, Uber. And tonight alone, there will be 500,000 users staying at Airbnb. Hong Kong Airbnb is not allowed. They are illegal in the way. But tonight in the world, 500,000 users. Like if one day there's a hotel group CEO come to us and say, where are my customers? They are not with the competitors. They are with these guys, the unicorns. And why unicorn matters? And for a definition of unicorn, they are actually a young company with a valuation of over $1 billion US. And we call it the unicorns. And by responding to unicorns, it's becoming a matter of survival. Why? If you look at this chart, look at all the billion-dollar unicorns, including over $1 billion, over $100 billion, we have Facebook, Alibaba. Over 20 billion, we have the Uber, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Twitter. Over 10 billion, we have the Snapchat, the Line, Pinterest, and so on. And at the very bottom, you would see Instagram, which is acquired by Facebook for $1 billion. And these are all the platforms that we have been using, including Dropbox, Spotify, you can name it, Xiaomi, all these platforms. So responding to unicorn is a matter of survival. And by looking at this chart, if you look at all the unicorns around the world, with 229 in the beginning of this year, which it worth about $3 trillion in valuation. But for the big data part, which I'm specialized in, which is the social media, which is only at the very bottom corner, this part, the digital media. That's it. That's us. We haven't been into fintech or the other health tech, other big data industries yet, but we are very focused on social media. So let's look at big data. No matter it's big data or small data, I believe that it is only all about being able to compare and correlate the different sets of data for us to drive a better business trend, for us to have a better quality of research. If you put in the data into McKinsey or Boston Consulting or AC Nielsen or into different companies, the result would be different. The interpretation would be different. So interpretation is a very important aspect of big data as well. Being able to help us to forecast what's going on, to predict, to analyze, and of course, for SME companies, for corporations, for MNC, is to make better decisions for us to drive. And if you look at all these data, all the data are actually from in the old days with the internet, with the email, and of course with the mobile penetration starting in mid-2000 and early 2000. The social media gave us a lot of big data. E-commerce, especially in China, we have all the different kinds of e-commerce. Payment transactions, Internet of Things, there will be 50 billion devices connected in the next 5 years. So there will be a lot of data coming out as well. You see iWatches, Fitbit, these are all the IoT products as well. The drones and the satellites, and there are a whole lot more data from all these sources. And I just want to spend 1 minute to make you as a very layman, because I'm not a tech guy, to make you become an expert in big data as well. So these are the 4 keywords. The first word is the collection of the data. What kinds of data you're collecting? So, is it inside data or outside data? Is it data within your company or outside the community? The second is correlation. What sets of data you're comparing yourself? Say, I collect the data of my weight. I'm, say, 200 pounds. But what does it mean? I have to compare with someone. Maybe if I compare it to a lady or compare it to a guy or compare it to a thinner or fatter guy. So that's a correlation to justify my positioning. The third one is interpretation. I think interpretation is very important. Whether I'm giving the data sets of report that I can manipulate, I am showing a set of data to my boss, or I am showing a set of data to my colleagues, or to my customers. That's the interpretation. And the last set, I would add on to imagination, because imagine the set of data of interpretation. It could be a predictive analysis. It could be what Tony mentioned about cognitive computing. It could be, machine learning. That's imagination, how we put into the future of accuracy of how we can drive. So we call it the CCII. And of course, in the process, there are a lot of different things, how we filter the data, how we do hygiene, but those are too sophisticated for us as business owners. And that's why, because of the big data thing, I started a company 4.5 years ago. It's called Clarity. We're monitoring 12 social media platforms, 6 in the Western market, 6 in the China market. The reason why we started this is because we started in Hong Kong especially, because China, there's a firewall that most of the Chinese have no idea what's going on in the outside world. And most of the Westerners, including myself, we have no idea what's happening inside China. So Hong Kong is actually the best place that we can bring together all the social media platforms all around the world and put it into one single platform. And we are now monitoring over 11 billion of data in the past couple of years. And we have been translated into 20 languages and over 110 industries. And these are all the data that we find really interesting. It could be for brands. We're monitoring 55,000 brands. And we are also monitoring all the news platforms. Imagine you can look at news that is all around the world instead of CNN, CNBC, or Bloomberg, which are most of the time manipulated by shortening things that is manipulated by, the perspective of the platform. So I think big data is very important. This is a case that came out from Lancome, if you have realized, in Shanghai. Lancome, it's a huge cosmetic brand. And they hired local artists in Hong Kong, and they had a big fire because of the political issues. Lancome dropped the artist, and the Chinese was very mad about the brand. And the top cloud word was actually about the Hong Kong audiences talk about Lancome, which it says the Lancome, the brand, is rubbish. We don't like it. And the bottom is actually a cloud from China, from Shanghai, from the Weibo platform. It says that we'll boycott Lancome. You see the difference? In Hong Kong, we only talk about we hate it, but in China, they don't buy it. They take action. That's the difference of data analytics that we can see from a very simple cosmetic brand. There are two different action types, and how we should respond on this type of crisis during digital marketing. And of course, there's also interpretation. This is a traditional bell curve on social media. After 6 days, no one even mentioned about the brand, the case of this crisis, of this chaos. And if you look at this chart, you can give an interpretation yourself. You can say, hey, boss, after 6 days, no one even mentioned. So let's not talk about the case. Or you can say, hey, boss, you know what? After 6 days, we still see ripples. The ripples are affecting the entire brand worldwide of Lancome. These are the interpretation that based on data, you can look into all the platforms. Like for Facebook, the interaction was only 2,000, but the cases that happened on mainstream media, and it went out to CNN about the chaos. So there are a lot of interpretation and data, and it really depends on how you make use of the data and make your own interpretation, or with a best guess to drive your business growth. And I mentioned about Donald Trump. Before Donald Trump, I make a short on the pounds at 1.48 during the Brexit. And by looking at news, because news on Google, news on mainstream media, basically you get nothing. Trump's campaign, I make a bet with my father. I said Trump will come on and win. And not because I like him, it's because of the data that shows us, there are a whole lot of things that he's doing behind on Twitter, on different social media platforms that you will never be able to see on the entire mainstream media world. But we are living in a mainstream media world. We turn on a TV, we turn on to major social search engines. That is totally manipulated, that I want to address this point. So that's why if you have data that you can look into real news, what's going on in behind, that is the interesting part of big data for media. And of course, real-time data, it's also very important. This is my office. We have, it's in the pantry. I asked my team to put up a real-time dashboard because as executives, we don't log into our computers and look at the data. So I just thought every morning when I have a cup of coffee, we can just have signals going up and down, and we can look at the performances of different accounts handling by my team. And I can, whenever there are red signals, I can go to my team and say, hey, what's going on? If there's green signal, I can enjoy my day. Everything is fine. So this is on my pantry. So real-time data is also very important for you to make real-time decision, because if the data or report that comes in maybe 2 months later, there's nothing much you can do. It's old data. So real-time data is the things that we are looking at as well. So my team would treat it as a major dashboard for them to drive performances. Look at the competitors' data. Look at the performances of the current situation compared to the past week, the past month, the past quarter, or the past years. And we can generate reports as well, because we know that a lot of our businesses, or especially SMEs or corporations, we hate looking into too sophisticated data. So we make easy reports. It's a one-click and automated report we generate every day. And then we can look into, this is for Tesla actually. So Tesla, we can compare with BMW, Audi, we can compare with Mercedes-Benz. We look at the brand voice all around the internet world, on all the social media platforms, all the online news platforms. We can look at the world map of all the different news that has mentioned about Tesla. all across different regions. And we can also look at all the customers, the positive and negative sentiments. We can identify whether they talk about bad things or good things. We have all the keywords and we generate reports out. And of course, you know, all the customer drill downs. And basically that's us. My company, we specialize in all kinds of digital entertainment. And this is a chart that I really want to show. Today, if we are in business, I think knowing marketing technology is very important, because you need the sort of channels like what we've mentioned, the unicorns. Those are marketing companies, but they are also technology companies, that we need the marketing technology. And we need data technology. And of course, the information technology. And if you can integrate all these into your business, you'll be growing exponentially faster than your competitor. And being able to first disrupt yourself before having someone to disrupt yourself. And of course, IBM also mentioned about the, Tony also mentioned about the AI and cognitive computing. And I picked this quote from IBM Watson's as well. It says that cognitive computing will be as disruptive to organization in the next decade as social media was in the past, in the last decade. So in the past 10 years, it's all about social media. But the next 10 years, I totally believe that ourselves as a startup, we need to ride on something like IBM Watson's to drive our business forward. And these are the, you know, the core things that is happening now, the AI. It seems like AI is so far ahead, but then actually Mark Zuckerberg in April launched chatbots. It's basically you can chat with a computer. And this technology alone, some of the banks in Hong Kong came to us and say, hey, you know what? We can actually fire half of our customer service hotline. 150 people, 250 people, or 500 people picking up the telephone lines, they can actually be replaced because most of the questions, 80% of the questions have been asked repeatedly, all over again and again. So something like this, chatbots, you know, can basically, you know, disrupt some jobs. I hate the word disruption, but this is the fact. And I hope all the business owners and corporate CEOs would realize the world is changing so fast. And in order to keep our staffs with a good quality of job and we can upgrade them and upscale them, we have to know, otherwise they will be running out of jobs. Thank you.